Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, I'll be explaining why uh, we're tying onto solid rings um, and how they're configured in both fast jigging and slow jigging. There's a bit of a debate happening, how people are using stuff and all that. That's all in good. People go about things in a different way, and if you are in a place where the difficulty level of catching a fish is actually easier than elsewhere, you'll find that even things that are not proper will catch fish. Okay, so if you're in an area of the world where you can catch a bluefin tuna using a sinker, you're very lucky. And you know what, even if you did things out of standard, you'll still catch fish. At the end of the day, that's what you're paying the what do you call this, the boat for, and you're entitled to that. Okay, so today what we're doing is explaining why. Because even if there's a lot of people, say in the US, that are fishing off party boats, and they're, even if what they're doing is non-standard, there's still a lot of people outside of the US that might see what the guys over at the US are doing and thinking that, oh, that's how it's done. But it's not, because a lot of things in the US doesn't conform to Japanese standards, where the origin of this type of fishing actually comes from. So I want to have at least one video out that explains why, and how you consume the information is already up to you. Alrighty, so we'll do fast jigs and then slow jigs, because guess what, the basic is fast jigging because it got popular first. Okay, so if you're new to the channel, by the way, this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. And we're talking about where you tie your line on jigs. Specifically, we're talking about fast jigs and slow jigs. And of course, the reason why. So there's a lot of videos explaining like, oh, this is what I do, this is what I do. But they don't really explain why. So this video will actually explain that. Okay, so I'm using a figure 8 ring, or F8, just so I can use this instead of fishing line. And also, it shows you a separation between the cord and the split ring. Okay, now fast jigs, there's two types. Okay, symmetrical, asymmetrical. There's some that's made of lead, and then for this particular jig, it's actually not made of lead, it's made of steel, and it has a sandwich of stainless steel. But the sides here, so there's three pieces to this. There's this side, the middle, which is what you see here, and then the other side. Okay, so it's sandwiched, and then you'll see welds here. If you look carefully, see, you'll see welds. So Nature Boys actually did this because they didn't want to use lead, because as you know, lead, it's toxic. Okay, so you can find jigs, and there's also other companies that do this. Okay, so you'll find jigs that are either made from lead, such as these. Okay, this is made in China. Okay, although it is from Williamson, this is made in China, and it bends. Okay, so Chinese jigs are like that. They're cheap for a reason. Now you take something like this from Sea Falcon, you bend it, and it doesn't bend. Okay, you saw that? It's the same force. Okay, it doesn't bend because this is an alloy. Okay, so they have antimony and tin mixed into this. Antimony, especially, is a carcinogen. It's also, well, yeah, it's not safe. It's not safe to play with. So, when once you mix that, and tin also, by the way, is very, very expensive. Okay, so even if there's just a percentage of tin and antimony on this, the cost is why it's expensive. Okay, I believe it is about $200 for uh like I think 5 kilos of tin. Because I looked for tin here, just wanted to ask. This is pure lead. It's very soft. It's very malleable. So, just on a side note, I know we're kind of moving on a tangent here, but um, what it is something that you could be useful for you. Okay, so um, these Chinese jigs, what happens is that when you catch a fish and then you put the jig on the deck, and then it hits the deck, and it actually bends a little bit like that, you don't even notice it. But even if you actually kind of put it back, it's not going to move perfectly anymore. So I would say that's what you're paying for. Just take note of that. The hack is you actually don't buy long, slim jigs from China. You just buy the short, stubby ones, because guess what? You can't bend those. Okay, so that's the hack. The small, stubby jigs, short, stubby jigs, you can't bend them. Okay, so good. But the long ones, they will bend. So take note of that. All right. Now, um, the uh, the purpose of having your solid ring there and how it's rigged is that so that once the fish is hooked, you have a straight line. Okay, straight line of pull, and the connection to your jig isn't too important. So you don't need like 100-pound split ring here. Okay, you could do well with a 30-pound, 40, 50, because the whole purpose of this ring is just to keep the jig there. All of the action, all of the pressure is right there. Okay, solid ring. That is it. So that's why I always say for fast jigging, that's an area for you to actually save in. As far as the solid ring is concerned, there are a lot of shapes. Now, again, the only reason why I'm putting an F8 here is because I wanted to show you guys the separation, and that kind of um, that will be spoken about later on. Okay, so the purpose of the F8 is literally just to separate the split ring to your knot. That's it. There's no other purpose. Now, there are pear-shaped solid rings that also separate your assist cord from your line, and also the um, split ring, but it's not separated by uh, a tab. Okay, so that's just a pear-shaped ring that works really, really well, and those things are very, very strong. Also, F8s are not as stealthy. They are mostly used for fast jigging more than they are with slow jigging. Okay, so I hope that's clear. Now, you will notice that the hook is pointing out. For slow jigs, it's pointing in. Okay, now it's pointing out because as this jig swims, it swims in a kind of a zigzag pattern when you're jigging it. So when you're using this the long, slim ones, you don't actually jig fast. You jig quite slow. Boom, boom, boom. And that gives the side to side action that the fish, or how the jigs are intended to swim. Okay, so that's how it attracts the fish. Now, you can see that the orientation of the eye forces the jig to be in that position. What happens if you put a swivel there, assuming that it still faces the right direction? Okay, you can see that it stands like that. And even if it's actually flush, what happens is that the body of the jig will shield the bite. Okay, and it could be that the hook will not position itself in an efficient position to hook the fish. That's why, especially remember that this jig is moving. Okay, it's in a constant state of movement, not like slow jigs where you have a pause. So this actually has like that motion, although you are actually, kind of jigging slow, you still have a constant motion on the jig. As soon as you stop, it goes down. That's it. So you have to keep up the momentum. And if it's not pointing out, if it's pointing in, it is not as efficient for hooking the fish. That's why you rig it like that. And the knot is there, and the jig is always going to be in position. Now, here's the thing. The fish, they kind of know where to strike because it's kind of instinct for them. And it's always going to be the perceived head. Okay? The perceived head, basically where the jig is moving to. Okay? And that end will be the perceived head. Obviously, because you have your leader here, and when you're pulling, it's zigzagging like that, the strike will be there. And if your hook is not in a good position, you will miss the strikes. It is as simple as that. And I hope that clears things as to why it is like that. Now, again, if you're putting it like that, there's a chance that when the fish bites, okay, it will not hook it because it will go like that. Boom. And it's moving. Whereas, like that, it'll hook. Okay? So, having it like that, even with a swivel or a split ring, is not going to be efficient. If you're in a place where there's a shitload of fish, it only takes for one dumb fish to actually get hooked if he keeps on repeatedly hitting. And if he gets unlucky, he'll get hooked. I'm not saying that it won't. But if you're in a difficult situation where the fish are actually kind of finicky, and when you want to convert that one strike, the chances of that happening is going to be higher in this configuration. Now, when you're going with slow jigs, or we talk about slow jigs, if you tie onto the solid ring, three things will happen. Okay? Your knot could end up like that. It will happen because guess what? This is smooth. And even if your knot is actually tight, what happens is that it will move. So it might go like that, or it could go like that. Okay? Not efficient. Also, look at the position, and your jig is actually moving like that. Okay, so slow jigs, they have a heavy side, which is usually the curved side, and then they have a flat side, which is usually the lighter side or the side that points up. When you give a slow jig slack, what happens is that it will immediately assume a horizontal position. If it is a short and stubby jig, it will flutter. If it is semi-long and semi-narrow, what happens is that it will slide a little bit, and it has um, wobble as well, or a roll. Jigs that are long, okay, let's just imagine jigs that are actually kind of, so some long jigs like something like this, and narrow. What will happen is that they will slide and they have very little roll. Okay, but one thing is certain, they are asymmetrical. So what will happen is that as soon as they sense slack, they will go like this. Now, if you tie your line on the solid ring, it will position itself like that. Okay, so if the fish is actually coming from this side, it's not gonna hit it. Okay, so aside from that, so the first thing that could happen is that it will go like that. And it has happened to me. I've tried this before, guys. Okay, so not gonna be efficient. And let's say you just dropped it, it's going to be like that. It's there or on the other side. Okay, so that. Now, the third thing is, if you look, okay, it's actually further up. Now, this is actually a custom, what do you call this? A custom assist hook that I made specifically for this. So here's the thing. You see how far it actually goes towards here? That's the right position. So again, just F8 for illustration purposes. I usually put a solid ring, just a round solid ring on this one, or a pear shaped. Okay, so if it's like that, not only is it going to be in position, okay, and it has a longer length, so it covers more of the jig. Okay, now if you're tying it here, the chances of the leader slipping up like that and the hooks to actually snag on your leader is actually quite high. So that's number 4, I guess. But that's the effect of tying it there. Okay, now another good reason is that, you know, when these were conceptualized and made and used, they've done a considerable amount of R&D to reach this current state. And mind you, this is not an American invention. This is a Japanese invention. And they are very particular about a lot of things. And this is one of them. So the reason why, or a very good reason why you should actually tie it there with a solid ring, a separate solid ring, is that the inventor of slow jigging actually tied it like that after all the mistakes that he has done. And, you know, after all his experiments, and I'm willing to bet that he's actually better than all of us combined. After everything, he said that, okay, he probably just thought like, okay, it's better if it's like that instead of actually tying it there. Okay. And until this day, he rigs it like that. So for me, I'm not gonna follow someone who kind of has an idea or have sort of an idea, especially in a place where this is kind of new. I would actually follow the guys that have been doing this for a really long time. So for me, I'm just explaining why, but it's up to you. As I always say, how you eat your sandwich is really none of anyone's business. If you think that rigging it like that catches you more fish, go right ahead. Okay. But I'm just saying that there are also other people, you know, around the world that might see the things that are happening in the US and they might think that, hey, this is the way to do things. So I'm making this video so that there's at least an English reference explaining why the connections are like that. Okay, even if I have videos that actually touch up on this, I wanted to have one that actually shows both fast and slow being rigged the way they're rigged. Okay, and that's the reasoning behind why it's like that. Alrighty, but then again, how you eat your sandwich is none of anyone's business. Alrighty, so if you like this video, or actually have learned something from it, give it a thumbs up. Alrighty, and share this video. Very, very important. Sharing is very important. So, kind of the YouTube algorithm likes it and it shows it to more people. That way, they see exactly the reason why. You know, and they don't have to be stuck with not knowing what is technically proper. Technically proper. I wouldn't say it's the proper, absolute proper way, but it could be the technically proper way. Okay, because a lot of people would actually argue that, hey, if it catches, then it must be right. So it also means to say that if you're standing in a garage, you're a car, right? Because a car is always in the garage. The same logic. All right. So yeah, that's it. And if you want to support the channel and help it grow, click on that membership button. And another way is to actually purchase a cap so that when you're fishing, you have the cap, and then people would see exactly, like, hey, what's that? And then you go like, oh, it's a cool channel that I learned from on YouTube. Alrighty, that is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.